Good morning, everybody. This is the DeFi Crypto Alliance show where we focus on crypto and real estate. We're doing our best to help everyone understand crypto is the biggest opportunity over these next couple of years, and it's not even close. So welcome. We're pumped to have everybody. The Pulsechain bridge is live. Well, kind of. And we'll talk about that today. It'll be a lot of fun. Corey, go ahead and take it away.
Absolutely. Corey Geary here, and this is the DeFi Crypto Alliance show. It's an absolute blast to be on this journey with all you beautiful people. I'm having so much fun, even though I am not sleeping at all. Like, it's been 4 or 5 days with I probably had 5 hours of sleep. And just, having a blast, trying to figure out the bridge, trying to figure out Pulsechain. And, I feel like, we've gotten some pretty good deals here and there. And right now, I've gotten the bridge up and operational a little bit, and I was successful in getting USDC over. Found out there's no liquidity, so I sent DAI, and now I'm stuck with DAI. So, it's just been a absolute blast. And so I'm leaving the Miami tomorrow, and I might put a hop on stream for a little bit with you tomorrow morning, Dane, before I leave. I leave tomorrow afternoon, and then I'm going to Puerto Rico, guys. So I'll be streaming from Puerto Rico with you guys, and this is gonna be an absolute blast to be on this amazing crypto journey with you with Pulsechain, using crypto as a wealth creation tool and real estate as that wealth preservation tool down the road. So yeah, absolutely exciting.
Yep. I got some comments here. Yeah, so it sounds like most everybody is stuck in the bridge. I mean, Corey and I we were at the bridge like within the first literally minute or two and bridging stuff over. So some of ours is hit, some of Corey's is still stuck. If you're stuck in the bridge, don't worry about it. We were listening to there was a Twitter space last night where KDP, that's great, of giving the community all the information and updates that we need. She indicated that, you don't need to do anything special. Your stuff is going to come through. You just have to be a little patient there. If you go over to the bridge and you look at transactions, there's a claim button. So you don't need to use that. Like, it'll just come through. So patience is the name of the game right now. You're not missing out on a lot. The liquidity is practically non-existent. And so even if you wanted to do something, like, there's not a lot to do right now. In fact, I was looking this morning, there were some stupid good deals, and I bridged over USDC. You could buy Pulsechain and PulseX below sacrifice price, but I could only get a dollar to swap at a time. So I didn't even do anything above that. The price impact was too high. I wasn't going to incur any of that slippage.
But for every dollar, you can make 10,000, right? Isn't that what all the
We're
tell us?
We're hopeful. But it's thickening up. I mean, I could swap $10 now, so that's a 10x in liquidity that I could swap. I can't do much more than that. So this is all going to thicken up. Johnny Chaos made a really good post. Let me find it here.
So yeah, guys, don't feel like you're missing out while he's looking for that post. I mean, the liquidity is really thin. You're not missing out on much right now. Basically, we're just waiting in line to get across the bridge. This is what early looks like. Being early to a protocol, this is what you're experiencing right now. If everything was easy and peasy, you wouldn't be getting the smoking deals. You wouldn't be. I mean, you can go buy Ethereum, right? And you're not early. So
exactly. So look at this. I think this was money. He says right here, within the next couple of months, on-ramps, cross-chain swaps, lending protocols, even exchange listings will be here. You have to build the house before you can live in it, and it doesn't happen overnight. We are framed out. We need plumbing and electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So love that analogy. This is all going to take time. It's funny how people are losing their freaking marbles over getting in, and we've waited 2 years. Like, I get the anticipation. We're all excited. We're with you, but this takes time. Like, don't worry about it. This is Chris. Yeah, Chris. I remember bridging to Polygon in the early days, and it took a week to come through. Interesting. And I know that, there were some people saying on Twitter that with the Polygon launch, the bridge was so congested and people couldn't get gas. They did a big airdrop to be able to give people tokens to be able to pay for gas. I wouldn't necessarily expect that here. You are going to need to phone a friend or wait for a cross-chain swap or a centralized listing in order to get your Pulse.
Or free Pulse IO when they get that up and going.
Yes, or free Pulse IO once they get up with that and going. So that'll be interesting. Phone a friend. Now is the time to have crypto friends to scratch each other's backs. Corey and I have been working overtime and helping the guys in our group, making sure that they get some Pulse so they can pay for fees to swap out, especially they're copied over stables that are that are essentially just garbage. We want to make sure we helped our guys get out of those. If you have not, be very careful about the stable coin situation right now. The thing, one of the worst decisions you could make would be to swap your valuable Pulse or PulseX or Hex or frankly just about anything for that matter for copied over stables that are largely worthless. In fact, there were a lot of people last night when the bridge opened up that were like going into the copied over stables, and there were people that were extracting value out of there and swapping it for Pulse, PulseX, Hex. So just be really careful, be patient, like everything's cool.
Yep. 120%.
Yeah. How do I see my Hex stakes on Pulsechain? Great question. I really like Alex's front end. I think it's easy to view things there. So you can go and find out your stuff by going to hedron.pro. It's hedron.pro.
Yep.
You can see all your native and your HSI stakes there. They're copied over. All your stuff is there. There's a number of people that are freaking out. I didn't get my copy. Well, as long as you freaking bought your stuff before May 10th and you held it in your own wallet, I promise it's there. You either need to use the scanner, you need to find a front end that will show you your tokens, or you need to add your tokens manually.
Yep. The Alex front end is working and operational. I staked P-Hex 2 days ago on Alex's protocol. A native stake too. A native stake because I wanted to lock some of it up for I wouldn't be tempted to swap anymore. So I was saving myself from myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to punt this out for 6 months, let all this craziness happen, and that way I'm not tempted. And that's what I did. So it works. It was nice to see that the whole mechanism work, the contract work on Pulsechain, and that Alex was probably the first one. Oh, boy. And Alex was one of the first ones to have that protocol, the front end up and going. And it worked like a charm. So if you even wanted to go in there and create an HSI stake, you could do so with your Hex that you have now on Pulsechain or natively. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's been a blast. So,
Corey, if you wouldn't mind taking the wheel for a second, I've got sick kids and my wife ran out really quick. I'll be right back.
Go take care of business, man. I'll hit the comments.
Thank you.
So, all right. So Dane will be gone for a minute while he's, I'll go through the comments here. Been trying to get my ETH out, but I'm never receiving anything. Crypto Elite, it's a waiting game right now. It's the bridge is overly congested. RH tweeted this morning also saying that that they're working on speeding up the transactions. So you're going to receive the ETH over on the Pulsechain side probably in the next day or two, I'd imagine max, but hard to say. So be patient. Info on the bridge. This is all we know. It's just a waiting game at this point. I remember, yeah, that's right. How do I see my X stakes? So once again, yeah. So app.hedron.pro is what I did, guys. Hey Ted, what's going on? Morning. Honestly, not having Pulse is saving a lot of people from wrecking themselves. I agree 120%. And people are already starting to wreck themselves by, like Dane saying, selling into the wrong stable. So be very careful, guys. RH made a tweet last night. If you want to check it out, he posted all the correct contract addresses for the bridged in stables. So if you're bridging in USDC, if you're bridging in DAI, if you're bridging in Ethereum, go to his tweet, get those contract addresses, add them into your MetaMask, so you can view the stable coin as they're coming into your MetaMask, and then add them into PulseX too. So that way you're swapping into or out of the correct stable coin. Be very careful that you're not, once again, we've talked about it before, swapping out of the copies. because we're seeing horror stories all over Twitter already of people getting wrecked. So be very, very careful. Do your due diligence. Go to RH's tweet, get those contract addresses, and be very patient. Glad to see 25 million hype waiting to come over. Yeah, I think we're up to actually now 40 million in the bridge waiting to be bridged over. It's absolutely insane. Knew I should have bridged. I know, me too. Legalized Hex. The first one I sent over, the first transaction was USDC. I thought it would be good because that's like one of the most common stable coins that we use on Ethereum. And I bridged that over. And when it didn't come over to the Pulsechain side automatically, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and send a DAI transaction. My USDC hit late last night, and I'm still waiting on my DAI. And literally, I had sent that DAI over 10 minutes after I sent my USDC, and I'm still waiting for that DAI, even though I received my USDC last night. So that's how backed up they got in that 10-minute period when I had sent from the time I sent from my USDC to the DAI. So absolutely insane how much money is trying to cross this thing right now. And I know once Portal X gets their protocol up and running, it will help the congestion. But KDP said it'll probably be a minimum of a week before Portal X is up and going. But that's going to help relieve a lot of this congestion over the bridge. So it's going to be super exciting to see those guys spin it up. But yeah, USDC, the liquidity pool is practically nothing right now. What's the best way to get Pulse for gas fee? I sacrifice Pulse S, but can't trade. I'll like to buy more. So right now, there's not a whole lot we can do. Like Dane said, if you got a phone a friend who might have some extra Pulse laying around, he might put a front it for you. We are waiting on the freepulse.io guys to spin up their protocol. They had verified, I think it was like a couple days ago, that once the bridge is open and they get a consistent price feed, meaning that they know exactly what Pulse is being traded at and what the actual value is, that they were able to spin up their protocol, because it's based off of whatever the US dollar valuation of the Pulse is, because they're going to be giving out $200 a day worth of Pulse that you can free claim, something like that. Or maybe it's every hour. I can't remember. But they need that price oracle to be able to start spinning up their protocol. So keep an eye on freepulse.io. We hopefully they'll have their stuff up and going very shortly. CryptoColic, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Paul Brooks, Patreon. Here is where I need to be due to effect. I want to do exactly what you said, preserve my wealth with real estate. I was just wondering which states are good in the Northeast. Northeast, I'm not sure. I don't like a lot of the Northeast for me when I was playing heavily in the real estate, like, New York, just because of the way it's an attorney state, and it caused too many problems when I get deals there. If you're looking for real estate that you can really get for cheap, that cash flows, the Midwest is great, in my opinion. If you're really trying to go after just low end cash flowing assets, the Midwest is your best. You get the A markets like New York, Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix, Los Angeles, Washington. That you're going to pay a premium for that type of real estate, and they typically don't cash flow. So, what's up, homophobic? For your information, couldn't get my hex limit approved to swap. Had to set it at max with no decimals. Wouldn't work otherwise. Thank you, Isaac. We appreciate that insight. Funny Jim has said not a lot of U.S. states are friendly when it comes to moving crypto into real estate. So you're not going to get a tax benefit directly by using crypto or selling crypto into real estate, but you will get tax benefits through the depreciation and cost seg once the money is moved into real estate. And now that's a whole nother, we can do a whole show on that one day. And you guys talk to an accountant to explore that option once you're converting that money over. You're back.
I'm back. We'll see how long I'm back for. Man, it's been a while over. All my kids have been throwing up, and it's been quite the night. I have also not been sleeping, but for a different reason.
Right, right.
Right. Cool. Where'd you leave
Where
off
we
at?
at with
Yeah, where are we
Isaac?
at?
That 1 hex to 420 pulse X is juicy AF. Yes, there's been I feel like some decent ratio trading, in my opinion, and I took advantage of some of those pre-bridge just to kind of diversify my portfolio, if you will, because me and Dane both missed the pulse chain sacrifice, and I feel like it was pretty. The value was not out of whack too much. I mean, if you want to compare it to what the hex price is on Ethereum, and if you take it and this is what Sami did, and if you assume that the hex price did a stock split, hex should be trading on the pulse chain side about a 3 cents, give or take. And if you're assuming that, then Pulse for the most part was trading at mainly a decimal 3 zeros in a three, which was a 3x. It was fluctuating a little bit more sometimes, a little bit less sometimes. You're lucky you could have caught it at 3 zeros 2 5. But assuming that, for me, to try to get a bag of Pulse out of the gate before the craziness really takes off, I feel like it was a good value to do so. And so I did a little bit. I had a lot of hex, and some of that hex I was anticipating to use pre-bridge if the swap ratio allowed me, and I feel like that was good enough for me to diversify a little bit.
Oh, and
So
that ended up being huge too, since we were able to accumulate enough pulse. There's plenty to pay for gas and things of that nature, whereas a lot of people are just stuck right now, which is tough.
it is tough, absolutely. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. I mean, once these floodgates kind of really open up and there's a lot of economic energy over there, that's when you're going to see the massive volatility. You're going to see, you're going to see Pulse and Pulse X fly to the moon, and then they're going to crash again. They're going to fly to the moon. They're going to crash again. So it's really nice to see the stability that we had pre-bridge. We didn't have I felt like a lot of volatility. It was just very consistent. So it was a nice little gift, I feel like, from RH for people who were a little bit early and held hex or wanted to swap their Pulse X before. So it was nice.
Yeah, it worked out good. This is a good one. Any downside to single-sided staking for PulseX can stake at any time? As far as we've seen on the previous testnet, yeah, there's no impermanent loss. Theoretically, all the tokens will go through the DAO, so they theoretically should be safe to accumulate. Yeah, and you should be able to unstake and restake at will, as long as you have Pulse to be able to pay the gas token or the gas fees to do that. So I for myself, I had an LP position, the Pulse to Pulse X. In fact, that's really interesting. The apparently the rewards for that pool plummeted as soon as the bridge opened or shortly thereafter. And so, a lot of people are going to start to feel what impermanent loss really means here over the next coming weeks, because like it's great when the yield is juicy, and then when it falls off, if you're off sides and your ratio's out of whack, well, now you've got to either choose to stay in a pool where you're not getting that good a return, or you've
Right.
got to pull out and experience the impermanent loss. And so, just be careful out there.
Very careful. And if you're curious about providing liquidity, that's fine. I get it. It's a little bit of a degen in all of us who want to do this. And technically, the DEX needs people to provide liquidity. Just do it a very small portion of your bag if you're planning on doing it at all. And like the way I like to think about it is like the portion I'm putting in for liquidity, I am throwing that away. Like it's down.
Yeah,
It's
throw
I,
away.
I'm punting it away. That way I can earn the incentive token. That's kind of like a perpetual money printer at that point. But for my Pulse and Pulse X side, like pretty much that's like gone. I'm like, here you go. And so yeah, just be careful, guys. There will be impermanent loss. That is for sure.
Yep. One of the things I've been paying attention to that's really fascinating is the hex ratios together. So you have native hex on Pulsechain, and then you have the bridged in hex, and they've been oscillating at some point. At one point, they were pretty close, 1 to 1. And what are we at right now? Right now, it's a little bit less than that, or not a little bit less, it's about half that. So native hex is more valuable than bridged in hex by almost 2 times, a little bit more. And so, yeah, depending upon how you feel about hex on the 2 chains and where you value them, there could be opportunity there. So, and I think that's a relatively liquid pair. Yeah, I could go ahead and yeah, that's a relatively liquid pair. So opportunities there if you depend upon how you value those. Really
Mm,
interesting. I know,
very.
last night when, Jenkins was streaming, at one point, the hexes were at 1 to 1, which is really interesting to see. I'm gonna be fascinated to see how the market values hex on the 2 different chains. Right now, everybody's saying it's worth more than double on Pulsechain. So that's really interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. In fact, you guys comment. I'm curious where you guys think. I mean, it seems like the masses tend to lean towards the new game in town being Pulse Chain. That Hex will be more valuable there. Some people are contrarian and thinking it'll be more valuable over on Ethereum. So, what do you guys think? Post in the comments. We're curious about your feedback there.
Yep, like Randy Hilarski calls the hex on Ethereum the Ferrari hex, and he thinks the hex on Pulse Chain is like the Honda Civic hex. I'm like,
The
what?
market's not saying that right now. Yeah, we'll see. We
Yeah,
will.
well, I mean, you got to think about it. The P hex is the new shiny toy right now, so there'll be some
Yeah.
FOMO in there.
Yeah.
But I feel like I really believe like once we see like some of the volatility calm down a bit, we're going to see some pretty massive LP bonding starting to take place. Whether it's done by Greg the Duck is very speculative, or done by other community whales who are going to go in there and provide that liquidity because they're going to do it to protect their position too, and they don't mind which side of the trade that they're getting on, right? They don't mind if they're going to end up with more P hex or E hex. And so I really anticipate some very large LP positions coming in once the volatility comes down. Before then, like you had said earlier, you could probably capitalize on some great opportunities in all these assets if
Yeah.
you're able to catch some of it, and maybe not in large positions, but at least in some. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch
Yeah.
it just all unfold.
It's really, really fascinating. Yeah, you guys have some good feedback. ETH will always be more valuable. Not right now. Right now, the market's saying that it values it more than 2 to 1 on Pulsex. So we'll see how that plays out. It'll be interesting. Both are going to do great. Yeah, yeah, we agree. We agree. In
I
fact,
agree with that, Archie, 100%. That's
yeah,
why I went ahead and I wouldn't get tempted because I did sell some of my hacks, but I had another good sized bag. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Ethereum. I'm gonna stake this right now to get out of my hands, and then I'm gonna go to Pulse and stake this right now and get it out of my sight. I don't even want to see it no more, and then punt it out 6 months. Let all this craziness happen, and I'll come back and revisit, and then it'll be fun to have that hex waiting for me.
yeah. PHEX has no price. It does in ratio to the
Sure.
EHEX, to bridged in hex. So that's what I'm looking at when I say that. Yeah, right now, I mean, for the native hex on Pulse Chain, yeah, they're valued at 2, a little bit more than 2 for every one of the bridged in hex. So that's where I'm getting the value. Cheap fees on Pulse Hex is a long-term play. Uh, this is gonna Are the fees really gonna be that cheap with 100x, 1000x? I mean, we'll be back to Ethereum
In
type
the
of
short
situation.
term, they will be cheap. We'll have to see how it looks in the bull market,
Yep.
especially when we're reaching into the 2024, like towards the end of 24, beginning of 25. That's when you can really anticipate some really, yeah, it can get kind of expensive again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Archie nails it. Yeah, by 1000x we'll be so rich, we're not gonna be worried about it. I agree. I agree. The tricky thing will be adoption for new people, right? Like, you hope that you continue to have adoption, you continue to have growth. And if it's really expensive, kind of like Ethereum, where it's just pricing a lot of smaller people out, you're just going to have less adoption. So I'm not worried about it in the long term. I think that Richard and his team, either that or the Ethereum guys, they'll come out with sharding to make fees cheaper. So I think it's going to be fine. I'm focused on the game at hand, and right now, at least compared to the dollar, it's cheap as could be to go and transact.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I hope the fees are cheap for a few years, at least for adoption, then scaling will happen. Absolutely. I think Archie nailed it. No one can arb the prices because of the bridge. We'll get parity again.
This is correct.
Yeah.
He's correct about that. There's no way they can get in sync right now because it's just too complicated to go back and forth, and there's not a lot of liquidity. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that's he nailed it.
Right. Where was, let me see. You don't think the Pulsechain copies were a bad idea? A lot of people are confused. Uh, Feel free to expound on this. I'm gonna assume that you mean the stablecoin copies. Maybe that's what you mean.
Oh, maybe he is. Yeah. I mean, what do you do? You're doing a full system state fork, and that's part of the full system state. It's unfortunate that you can't take your counterfeit money and make them worth $1. It's the same in real life. If I go in the garage and I print me out some dollars, I go to use them. Oh, behind you,
Oh,
Dane.
hold on.
But if I go to my garage and print me some dollars, and go try to use them, it's they're either going to throw me in jail or they're not going to allow me to use them. So it's the same. But with the rest of our internet money, it works, and we just need liquidity to back it, and we need us to give those internet monies value. That's it.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm telling you guys, it just like I think there's a lot of people, especially on Twitter, that are losing their marbles over, some of the problems that they've ran into. Guys, we've had freaking 2
2
years to be able
years.
to prepare for
Like
this.
we
And the
like right.
Yeah,
Sorry, why don't you know? How do you not know about the copied stables? And that's not the play to go into when you're trying to sell your bag. Like, I mean, like we have been preaching this in the community forever, like in the Telegram channel, on the Twitter spaces. Like, we are probably one of the best communities as far as education and crypto. I think there's like probably no better community when it comes to education. And if you had just done a little bit of due diligence, a little bit of research, a little bit of not just going quickly and FOMOing and pushing buttons, you would have not got wrecked.
yep, exactly. And I'll give you guys an example. So like this is just how financial games are played. Those that are early are the ones that benefit the most. So, for instance, when Corey and I were doing real estate full time, I went and me and my little brother that I worked with, we used a strategy called driving for dollars. It's
Mm,
literally where you
mm.
drive around neighborhoods, you look for houses that are beat up, you make a list of those houses, and then you contact the homeowners to see if any of them are looking to sell, because it can be a lot of work to go and a lot of money and time and effort to go and fix up a beat up house. There's a lot of people that would rather just take the money and run and not have to worry about it. And that's the service that we offered in my real estate company. And so we went and did that. We found about 1,000 addresses, and we'd been calling them. We'd been calling the homeowners to discuss options to see if there was houses that we could buy. And I had this epiphany one day, and I said, "What if I text messaged everybody? I wonder how that would go." And literally, in about 2 weeks, we made 100 grand from that one tactic. It was wild. It was wild. And so we went on a text messaging spree for the next couple of years, and we printed money before anybody was doing it because we were first to the game. We
Yep.
printed money. And this is no different. So it's important to understand how to operate, what you're doing, how to do things correctly. And if you don't, like, then educate yourself. You don't need to be in a rush. You don't need to make bad decisions. You don't need to go around clicking buttons you shouldn't be clicking. If you have no idea what you're doing, like, patience is fine.
And to finish your story there, now if you do texting in our industry, it's ultra competitive and you don't make much money from it anymore. So
Right.
to your point, you were early to the game, made a crap ton, then the market got flooded, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm good now. You guys can have it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And Pulsechain, I think, will be the same thing. It's cheap right now in dollar terms. It'll be
That's
expensive,
it.
closer to the top of this next bull run. And those of us that are here now are going to be the ones that are the beneficiaries. Yep. Absolutely. Let's see. Love Sami, but didn't realize current Pulsex price of is only a 317x. Pulsex will run, but might be a play for 2029 bull run. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were as excited as anybody for the buy and burn. I think it's great. But you also have to factor in, what are these guys that have $14 million at the best sacrifice rate? Well, if they get a 10x, they're at $140 million. Do you think they need to hold for a 10,000x? I mean, I don't think they're going to be holding for a 10,000x. And how sophisticated are they? Like, are they someone's going to provide LP and support the system, or are they just going to click market sell and destroy the price? Like there's a lot of things to consider there. And I think it was Sami that did a tweet a few days ago that essentially at these rates, if we kept this buy and burn at these rates, I think it would take 5 years to offset the person that sacrificed 14 million that has proven to be a big dumper. So patience, perspective. I think there's a lot to be said about being diversified across the Richard Hart ecosystem and the different assets. We just don't know what's going to run, and I know for Corey and I, we want a piece of all of it just to hedge ourselves.
Now, and Paul Sachs, I will touch on the 40232. Remember, this is like when there's very thin liquidity and everything's all wonky.
Mhm.
Like real price discovery is not taking place right now. Like this could be a good opportunity to get in there and grab some more Paul Sachs at a very cheap price, but your liquidity is going to be thin, so you're going to have experience with slippage. But it's really not where the price discovery is going to be starting at. Now, RH might use this price on the chart when he's talking about a 10,000x because it's just you can. But really, in my opinion, this is not the starting price because we're just not. The market is not in there doing what it needs to do for price discovery. It doesn't make you can't say this is our starting price.
Yeah, if you can't buy any, is it truly like a starting price? Yeah, right now Pulsex is at one, two, three, four zeros and a 7.4.
Yeah, that to me, that's not what the market is saying it's worth. Because right now the market has $50 million in the bridge anyways, trying to get over there. Like, let's check back in 2 weeks, right? And unfortunately, it might take that long for us to get in there and get all the money over there till we can really find price discovery. But we don't know, right? And so, like, that's why I feel like this is not accurate pricing, even though, like I said, RA could use it on the chart to brag. Which is
Yep,
that's
Brad.
just man, guys, it's just a boasting talking point, right? Like on Hex, how many of you guys, I know there's some of you, but really how many of you guys caught that perfect bottom 30 days after and experienced the 10,000x all the way up to the 56 cents or whatever it was? Very few, like very, very few, but there are a couple guys who caught it. And maybe you can get in there and throw $10 at Pulsex right now, and maybe you'll get your 1000x by throwing $10, and you can brag about that, right? But that's about what it's going to be. I mean, so
Yeah.
yeah,
And
don't think that.
even $10 right now, and I'm looking for I have bridged in USDC that hit my account so I can come in and do stuff with it. But there's just not like the pools that are paired with it are so thin. So even at $10 right now, swapping that bridged in USDC to Pulse is 20% price impact.
Jeez.
Pulse X, yeah, same thing, 20% price impact for $10. So, like all this, yeah, this isn't I wouldn't for Richard Hart purposes, he'll probably use these prices, but for us, like these
It's
aren't real
not real
prices.
pricing.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is not realistic market discovery pricing.
yeah.
That's the honest truth. So
And Richard did tweet out earlier this morning that the validators apparently are up and working really diligently right now. It's going to take some time, so all that money will come in. I'd be willing to bet that the majority of it will be bridged in, at least of what's in there today. I think there's like $20 million. I imagine that all will be bridged in over the next few days to a week, and that's when we'll start to really see some of this stuff. What it can actually do. So
right.
that'll be fascinating to
And then
watch.
within a week or two, probably two max, KDP was saying in their Twitter last night that they should have Portal X up and going too.
Oh,
Uh,
really? That'd be great.
yeah, so that would help offload some of the congestion that we're experiencing. And even if you wanted to use this pulse ramp, you'd get through a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So
And the OX Coast guy, they have their exchange that sounds like that'll be up and running soon enough. So you'll be able to buy Pulse and come directly into the ecosystem there. So there's lots of cool things coming. This is what it like Johnny Chaos said. This is what it's like to be early. Like it's just not going to work seamlessly, and that's fine. It's fun to watch the fireworks. It'll be fun to see everything kind of take hold. And over the next few months, I think we're going to have massive bragging rights, massive charts to show other communities to onboard them over to what we have going on.
it's gonna be
So
wild.
don't get fudded out. Some of these idiots and some of these stupid influencers on Twitter are like, "Oh, it's broken. It's not gonna work." Well, don't go dump now. Like, you can dump it. Give
I
it
mean,
3 months. Give it 6 months. Like, if you want to dump then and everything's working and you want out, by all means, like call me. We'll OTC a deal.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
gladly buy your bags.
You could dump it right into my
Chill.
bag. I mean,
Just chill. Everything's cool. I want to take part of my bag and try to catch some of the tops and bottoms in the coming months. Then I slap myself. Been there, been there. There's always this temptation, right? That maybe this time I'll be able to trade it well. And then I go and shoot myself in the foot, and I'm like, dang, you know better.
I know.
Corey was talking sense into me the other day. I was loving all the ink I was earning. And then we talked about liquidity providing. We both shot ourselves in the foot there before. And so thank goodness you need good friends like a Corey to be able to talk sense into you when you're thinking too short term. So I pulled mine, and sure enough, the LP, the farm is just not cranking out like it was. So your rewards there have gotten diminished largely. And let's see,
Yeah,
is that parrot, is it out of whack or is it still pretty consistent?
it's probably
No, it's still pretty solid. You're about
because
1 to 3, 1 to 4. Yeah.
yeah, because we haven't had enough economic energy to go in there and really. Once you got millions of dollars in the ecosystem, you're gonna bet you that's gonna go out of whack.
Yeah, it's gonna
It
go out of
might
whack.
come back. I mean, like it could be like this. I mean, it could be crazy, but you just don't know, and it's the unknown. Remember, the number one thing that gets you wealthy in crypto is just buying and holding. I mean, it's just hold it, right? And the incentive token is fun and all, but I mean, you could also just buy the incentive token too while it's on a dip and
Right.
hold that if you want that asset. If you really want that asset, I mean, there'll be plenty of it in the first year being trading around. So you're not missing out.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. 95% of people have no clue about the stables, and most never cash out to stables. Yeah, it's proving to be accurate. Seems like most people don't know. I'm telling you guys, my heart just hurts for the people that we saw them early on. They're like, oh, I traded my Pulse or my Pulse X to the stable DAI or to USDC, and I tried to cash out. Why isn't it working? Like, oh, brutal.
For one, they're
Brutal.
they're trying to market sell right when they get their goodies. Like what? Like, I guess
No,
it's the guys who got flooded out over the last 2 years. Some of these guys are just willing. They just want to get out of the ecosystem as quickly as possible. I think we're going to see a lot of this, and I want it to happen. Bring it up. Let's bring this on, right? I welcome the guys want to lead the ecosystem, so I get a better opportunity for buying. My friends, our group could have a nice opportunity for some entry points if these guys are leaving the ecosystem, because I don't think it's going to stick around for long. We had till maybe the end of the year before we start seeing retail really starting to come back into crypto in general. And
right.
I think that's our opportunity time. That's going to be it, right? This is it. This is our once in a lifetime. We're at the market bottom. We have this new launch in a bear market. We're going to have some capitulation after people can take money out of the system. That is your opportunity to get in there with new dry powder and basically get maybe hopefully the same opportunity as some of these sacrifice guys got.
Yep, absolutely. Hold on 1 second. What is this?
Is it possible to eliminate bad contracts at fork, but not the stables? Don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a dev, so I don't know how that works. P burn, so it's very interesting. I know RH had talked about one time, cutting out some of the copied the hex type, like the wise token and stuff. And I don't think he cut anything out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I can't even claim my die. So yeah, Francis, me too. I got my die waiting in the bridge. You can't claim. So like, I know there's a claim function. That claim function doesn't work going from Ethereum to Pulsechain. You're just going to receive the assets in your wallet on Pulsechain. Now, going back the other way, RH had confirmed last night that if you're going from, say, you're taking your DAI back over the bridge, that you do need to claim on the Ethereum side. So the claim function works on the E side. You don't need to do it on the Pulsechain side. You're just going to get an error every single time. So just be patient. They'll show up in your wallet whenever the validator gets to your turn and validates the transaction.
Right. Let me. I'm gonna jump off. Corey, go ahead and end whenever you so see fit. Appreciate you guys tuning in and all the questions. We're here to help. I'll be on tomorrow. Corey, if he can join us, he will. But I'll be on tomorrow, and my wife should be around so she can help with the kids.
I hope the kids get better, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys later.
See you, brother. What was the name of the sacrifice checker? Is it still working? Want to double check? I got all the Pulsex I was supposed to. Go to pulsechain.com or howtopulse.com. One of those websites or front ends will have the sacrifice checker there. I am only holding Hex on both chains intended to swap then. However, I get a feeling it's going to pump and I'll be able to move more Pulse after. Absolutely, Urban Productions. So that's why I went ahead and staked a good portion of my bag, even though I had a lot of liquid when the fork happened, and with the anticipation that I could, swap around and do what I wanted to do. But like, I was literally came to the conclusion, you know what, I need to stake some of this more of my liquid Hex. That way, I get it out of my hands and I don't trade, my pennies for dollars. Because what if Hex ends up being the massive runner in the next year? I want to make sure I have enough Hex in my wallet to be able to take some good opportunities. And maybe I could swap down the road going back into Pulse or Pulsex and get a better deal. So it's hard to say. It's unknown. And I wanted to make sure I had a nice diversified portfolio between all three assets. So that way, if one runs really hard, I'm holding it. Tin Top, what's going on, my man? Thanks for joining us today. I mean, not only the stable copies, but only P-Hex had the value. It means that the amount of E-Hex was inflated 100% with the launch of Pulsechain. Yeah, hard to say. Like I said, I don't feel like any of the real, especially on the Pulsechain side, pricing is not realistic because it's you haven't found pricing, all this money waiting to get over. There's no way we can know the real true market value of any of these assets. And so when you compare that to the Ethereum side, it's just hard to say what's what. The permanent loss of the Pulse X to wrap Pulse pool is not too bad. I may pull my LP and chill into the bridge is functioning so I can accumulate. I agree, Tin Top. I agree. And that's a safer play. Do smaller amounts, take longer, or get through the bridge. Still waiting for mine from the first 5 minutes of bridge last night. Only did $100. So Josh, your $100 is still in the bridge. I got to the bridge fairly quick. And I did a USDC transaction. I wish I had done DAI because I got my USDC transaction last night. It was late last night. It was probably like 6 hours after I initiated the transaction. But then like 10 minutes later, I went and did a DAI transaction because I noticed when I went to the bridge and I was choosing my asset to bridge over, I had to import USDC. The DAI was there. And I'm like, so I sent my USDC and I got to thinking, I'm like, the DAI contract address was in the bridge already. I'm wondering if I should go ahead and shoot DAI over because that's where the liquidity is going to be at. Sure enough, that was where the liquidity was at. But yeah, I got my USDC. There's no liquidity. Well, I mean, there's a little bit. It's starting to thicken a tiny bit. I think maybe by the end of the day, we can start trading a few $100s worth of USDC into Pulse and Pulsex. We'll have to see. We're going to see the chart of Pulsex. I probably Dex Screener, I think, is got some of the charts up. I haven't looked myself. You can also go into the Dex itself and put like the copied or the wrapped version DAI into the Dex and see what the Pulse X is worth with the ratio there. So EU countries officially approved MiCA crypto regulation rules. What are your thoughts about following CBDC worldwide? So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I really believe, kind of how Randy Hilarski talks on his show a lot, that we're going to live in two separate worlds as far as the financial system is concerned. You're going to have your CBDC worlds that you're going to have to operate out of, and this is where you're going to have a KYC wallet attached. You're going to have to, everything will be fully doxed, moving money in and out of that wallet. You're going to have maybe what Identity Block talked about. You're going to have certain maybe brokers in the United States that you would have to off ramp into to get your money out of the system. That could very well be a possibility in the future. It might take a while before we get to that point, but it's definitely a possibility with the CBDCs. And then you're going to have your DeFi world, where everything there, if you know how to operate the right way, you're going to basically have your freedoms. In my honest opinion, you could have censorship resistant transactions. You can have, your self sovereignty. You can, if you know what you're doing, you can go and basically have anonymity. You can go in there and do stuff where you can't be traced. Well, is easily traced. So it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. So you right now educate yourself really well in the DeFi space and how to operate in DeFi where there is no regulations and where it's going to be very hard for them to get their grubby little hands in, and you'll really do your, like I said, due diligence, and you'll figure it out. And yeah, I don't want to talk too much about mixers and stuff like that, but there are options. This Pulse Paul XLP is crazy. On Pulse 1 to 4 is awesome. Yes. I have a very small LP position, very small. Where, like I said, the way I think of it is I kind of just do it in there, and I'm not going to even. It's something I'm throwing away, and I'll earn a little bit of ink. So I'm scratching that LP itch, if you will. Desk screener has the pairs. Yes, desk screener, but you have to hit the switch to price to wrap Pulse button at the top. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, no worries, my friend. So 40K in the Pulse and 160K in the Pulse, that seems like a 1 to 4 in this price. Yes, that's about right. If you're able to get that kind of liquidity into the ecosystem. Dogechain blocks Zen from deploying. Yeah, I heard and saw that. So there's a couple arguments with that, right? People say if you block the contract of Zen, you can do it very easily. It's not hard. Then you're preventing freedom of speech. The counter argument to that is if one individual's freedom of speech prohibits another individual's freedom of speech, like here in the United States, you have freedom of speech, but if one person's freedom of speech stops another or harms another person's freedom of speech, that's when it becomes illegal, and that's when it becomes a problem. And so you can have that counter argument that the freedom of speech is being prohibited from the little guys operating in Pulsechain by the Zen contract freedom of speech allowing to operate. So there, you can look at it from two different perspectives. It's very difficult, and controversial on which way to slice it. We'll see how RH wants to play his cards. As of right now, he's letting Zen run its course. I feel like after Zen kind of does run its course and it gets a lot of its monetary, because Jack redeployed all the contracts, right? And I feel like when everyone gets their minting out of their system, it will calm down. It will calm down like it was on the ETH chain. ETH chain in the beginning, it was absolutely bonkers, but right now it's not as aggressive. So we'll just have to let it play out. I don't think RH is going to cut it out, but it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, it's funny how Dogecoin did. Was one of the first bridging in USDC. I should be able to load up really soon. Yeah, I did USDC. It's not much liquidity, so I'm hoping some LP gets added very quickly, or my DAI gets added in, because I also bridged DAI in about 10 minutes after I did my USDC, but I'm still waiting on my DAI. Yes, this is normal right now, Charity. This is normal. The bridge is backed up. Someone had said earlier in the comments that when the Polygon chain opened up, that's an L2, the bridge over there was backed up for a week. This is what being early looks like, guys. This is exactly what it is. This is what being early looks like. Hey, Corey, is your validator up and running? Not yet, guy. I'm going to wait till I get back from my Puerto Rico trip because I leave tomorrow to go to Miami for the Hex conference. If any of you guys are there, I would love to see you and, have lunch and hang out and talk shop. It'd be a lot of fun. But once I go to the Hex conference, I'm leaving Sunday to go to my Puerto Rico. Since I'm so close to Puerto Rico, I'm going to go down to Puerto Rico, taking the family. We're going to hang out for a month, see if we love it, we don't love it, and then I'm coming back, and that's when I'll spin up my validator. I don't want to spin it up now, and then some stuff needs to be done or maintained with all the newness of the chain. I don't know, right? It's going to be how much maintenance it's going to need here in the beginning. So I want to, be able to get to it as a problem arrive, and so. I just did 500 die a few hours ago. Yep. We'll see how long it hits. RH did a tweet this morning saying that the validators are working on making faster transactions. So we'll see. How to get Pulse right now? Only way to get Pulse is on the Pulsechain ecosystem. I think there is a small liquidity pool on the Ethereum side of Wrap Pulse, but you still need Pulse on the Pulsechain side to unwrap that, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. So we're hoping Free Pulse IO can get their stuff up and going very quickly. They said last night that all they need is a price feed, some stability to start spinning up their protocol. So we'll see. I got a SAC Pulse X, trying to get some Pulse. Only got one. How to pay for gas? Yeah, this is the common problem across the board. However, after 2 years of waiting, I'm glad that Pulsechain is live. A little time, everything will go up. Yeah, I agree 100%. Will come. We will go to the moon. I agree 100%. This is, like I said, what early looks like. It's going to be interesting to look back, 2 years from now, we're in the top of the next bull market, and we're going to look at the price charts and everything that happened during this time. It's going to be very fun, and we'll know then how early we really were. The pain that we're going through right now, the experience that we're going through, just is going to represent that on the price chart. It's going to be awesome. Nothing should be blocked unless it's doing illegal criminal things. I kind of agree with you, Ocean Breeze, and I think that's why RH has not done anything. Yeah, it's very interesting how Dogecoin just blocked it and cut it out. That's kind of like it's the whole, cryptocurrency was invented to get rid of these rules and middlemen and counterparty risk, and it's goes against the kind of the code of ethics of crypto, in my opinion. Yeah, one could argue yeah, they're hurting the little guy, but not right now. They're not. I mean, you can once we get the ecosystem up and going, we can bridge in. It's still rare. It's still rather cheap to transact, and like I said, by the time the bull market returns, I think the massive minting is going to calm down. The guys who are holding Pulse are going to see Pulse, their valuation go up, so the minting is going to calm down from that. So it's going to work itself out, and I think RH knows that. And so, yeah, it's very fascinating to me that the Doge thing just cut it out. It's interesting. In private, there is not freedom of speech in a way to see perspective. Yeah. I mean, depends. It's all perspective. Do you think it's wise to farm ink token with a very small portion of your bag? Very small portion. I wouldn't say it's wise. I would say do it to scratch the itch. That's what I'm doing. It's needed, obviously. We need LP, right? But depending how big your bag is, you don't have to be the guy providing that LP. Let some whales, some benevolent actors, maybe Greg the Duck, let them do it. You don't need to do it. It's nice to get the ink token. So if you need to scratch itch, maybe do it with 2-3% of your bag, maybe 5% max. You do not want to incur the impermanent loss that could come out of this, where if you'd have just held the tokens in your wallet during these next 6 months or so, you would have made a lot more gains. than trying to get that ink token, which is kind of just a new shiny toy, is all it is, guys. So extremely disappointed with Pulsex 70%. Yeah, I mean, this is for me not the real valuation of Pulsex, to be honest with you. This is not the market. This is not price. What do you call it? Where price is established from the new money bringing in. I mean, there's 40 million in the bridge. Like, this is just not what the true pricing is, in my opinion. Like I said, RH could point to this on the chart, but this is not the market price of Pulsex, in my opinion. So you're going to have to give it time. Now, in a week from now, if all this money gets in and Pulsex is still 70% under sack rate, then you have a right to complain. But the next, to me, is just still an opportunity to buy more. The velvet rope. It really is. We're all waiting to get let in. Come on, let us in. By the time the bridge works 100%. Yeah, oh, I agree. We're going to see it. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. If any guys are out there, feel free to DM me in Twitter. Love to meet up, whether you're at the Hex conference in Miami or out in Puerto Rico. If you're from Puerto Rico, maybe you can show us around and show us the good neighborhoods, show us the good restaurants, all that stuff. It's going to be a blast. If you go to Puerto Rico, go to Rincon. Okay, Rincon, it's a really nice area. I think I've heard that. Yep. My goal is, like, I want to, like, get an Airbnb in like 4 or 5 different communities, right? Different neighborhoods, to get a feel like, okay, what's it feel like to live here? Stay here for a week. All right, go over here. What's it feel like to live here? And just get a feel to see if there's a place that really resonates and feels like home to me. And my wife, obviously, because happy wife, happy life. I got to make sure she's happy, because literally, guys, I can live under a bridge if I'm going to save millions of dollars in taxes. Like, me personally, I don't care where I live. I got to make sure my family's happy. And that's the whole point of this trip. Have a good time in Puerto Rico. Thank you, Paul Sachs. Appreciate you, man. I didn't see single-sided staking with limit orders. So, yes, single-sided staking will come later when the DAO starts integrating votes for third-party protocols. And because that's what you're earning. You're earning the third-party token, which is the new projects coming to Pulsechain. It's a way of getting their marketing, getting eyeballs on their protocol, and those DAOs will be voting those protocols in. So I don't anticipate single-sided staking for Pulse X to be live at a minimum a month, maybe even up to 6 months. So be very patient with that. Understanding it is coming. Limit orders, same thing. RH tweeted last night. He said things are going very nicely with how Pulsechain's working. Obviously, the bridge has got its issues. They're resolving that. One of the next things they're going to be working on is features in Pulse X. Features meaning limit orders. So go back to RH's tweet. You can see on there, he addressed that specifically. Any idea why Pulse X is dumping way harder than Pulse? You know, it's people are mainly swapping Pulse X in the Pulse. Is probably where the price is dumping from. People are going to have paper hands, guys. And sacrifice we get airdrops in the future. Yeah, we don't know. Absolutely. Low prices were anticipated. We are still in the middle into the bear market. Yeah, and guys, like, I can't stress this enough. Even if we have a little bull run in Pulsechain after all this money comes in and the ecosystem's flowing, I really feel like we're going to see a lot of paper hands and exiting of the ecosystem with Pulse and PulseX in the coming months leading up to the Bitcoin halving. For me, it spells opportunity. That's what we are still in the middle of this bloody bear market. The Fed just raised 25 basis points. They're going to either raise it one more time or they're going to hold it for a few meetings, few of the FOMC meetings, meaning throughout the year. It's going to cause a lot more pain in the marketplace, in the stock markets, in the real estate markets. And when those markets are bleeding, people, where are they going to take a liquidity out of from? Well, they're going to take a liquidity out of crypto, especially if someone sacrificed 2 years ago, used leverage to do that sacrifice, which a lot of people did. I've heard the stories. They used leverage to do that sacrifice. And now, you know, their stock stock portfolio is down. Their real estate portfolio is down. They might have lost their job, or maybe they, who knows what's going on. They're going to take out that liquidity. And it's not so much crypto or Pulsechain, but that's just the economy as a whole. And we're going to see that as we're moving through 2023. I believe that's going to be the story up into 24, where in 24, you have the presidential elections. This is going to be massive, guys, because with that election, you're going to see some pivot before, probably way before, or going in, because if the Democrats are going to want to try to hold the House, they're going to be like, oh, hey, look, we saved the economy, vote us back in, or let us keep the House. And if my opinion, if Republicans get voted in and we see that happening, that's going to be bullish for markets as a whole anyways, just because of the shift of the House. So you got that. You got the Bitcoin halving in 2024. So a lot of bullish indicators for 24. Not for 23, guys. 23 is looking very bearish, in my opinion, or at least holding, towards some kind of bottom. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see. You're a top guy, Luther James. Thank you, my friend. I really do appreciate it. You know the easy rules of women. Yeah, yes, bro. Happy wife, happy life. That's totally it. Fat Sammy, what up, my friend? How you doing? How's I hope Pulse Bitcoin does really well on Pulsechain, man. I still hold a position in that ecosystem. I would like to see that flourish over on Pulsechain. I know it's been kind of hurting there on the east side, but maybe that's because we're waiting in anticipation for Pulsechain to launch. It'd be very interesting to see how that whole ecosystem comes to fruition. We got the first halving coming up in the Pulse Bitcoin ecosystem. We have also the Pulse Litecoin at some point down the road. So it'll be very interesting to see how it unfolds. $100 buys are printing big king. Yeah. Right. There's no liquidity. Like, oh my God, it's gonna be the same to the downside too, Tin Top. When anybody wants to sell, it's gonna be wrecked. Look at the ratio of Uni ETH and compared to Pulse X. Yeah, I mean, you definitely can see that. But remember, Uni launched like in the bull market, and so that price chart's reflecting of the bull market going into the bear market. And so it's gonna be interesting. I think Sami had touched on this. My friend Sami is, how's that price chart gonna look on its first time going from bear to bull? Then that's where you can really compare, because the Uniswap token is risk on, where Ethereum is risk off, and it's more of a store of value in the crypto world. And so you got to look at that ratio when we're going back into the bull market to show more risk on, more speculative play in the crypto space. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Absolutely. 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 There's going to be opportunity abound for accumulation. I agree 100%. Please, someone send me Pulse. I have so much Pulse X, but I can't trade. Go into the Twitter. I saw the Twitter room this morning. There was a Telegram channel that they were kind of shilling. Obviously, do your due diligence, but go in there and ask around. There were some people giving out some Pulse. And once again, like I said, I think Free Pulse IO should have their protocol up and running within the next day or so, hopefully. If you bridged over USDC, can you send it back over if you haven't done anything with it? Yes. Ideally, yes. Although, when you go to send it back, I don't know how long you're going to be waiting to get your USDC back on the other chain. So understand it could be congested going back too, just because the validators are working very diligently to validate all the transactions on coming on the Pulse chain. So you might still be waiting in queue going back. So, but yes, if you're really interested in getting your USDC back, maybe you start the transaction now, knowing it might be a few days before you receive it back. Over 1 million of DAI, bridge and pulsing. Nice. Where's mine? I sent some DAI last night. I would love to see it get over there, because that is about the only place that we're seeing any kind of liquidity. The USD is slowly moving up. Yep, my DAI has not hit yet. It is bridging and Pulsechain just slowly, right? Yes, that is correct. That is correct. if not totally stopped. It's not stopped. They are validating transactions. RH confirmed this morning, and they're going to slowly get more faster at validating transactions throughout the day. Is what he how he had said it. So, well, cool guys. I'm gonna hop off. We've been on for about an hour and 5 minutes. In Cryptorama, once the bridge issues are resolved, we can see more stable price movements. RH's latest tweet assured that this will be done soon. Patience for next 40. Yes, guys, this is what early looks like. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think you'll look back in this moment, assuming you hold your assets, you diamond hand, you don't paper hand, you don't get fudded out. You're gonna look back at this moment and it's going to be one of the most opportune times of your life. So don't get fudded out. Keep your assets, and it's going to be an amazing journey. Guys, I'm going to hop off. I'll hop on with Dane probably for half the show tomorrow. I'm leaving tomorrow afternoon to go to the airport, but I would love to hop on, say hi to you guys, kind of do an update to see what's going on with the bridge. But until then, guys, see you in the next one, and have some patience. Remember what early looks like. Don't get fudded out. This is what spells opportunity. Peace.